There are only two things that are needed for transformation. And when we practice these two qualities, anything can be ours. And let me share with you a little story about this for myself. Back in the day, I talk about this a lot, when I was really struggling at a point in my life and nothing was really working. Well, there were plenty of things that were working. I had a good pursuit of a career. I had some good friendships. Generally, the outside of my life was pretty great. But the inside, I was really roiling in. I was suffering. I wanted to die. I wasn't suicidal, but I wanted to die. I remember telling a therapist that if I drove home and I got hit by a semi and it all ended, I wouldn't be too sad about it. And I was at a real low point in my life, even though I was doing everything I knew how to do. And I met someone, my spiritual master, and she started to guide me, and I started to use the teachings that she shares that are immortal, essentially, eternal teachings that can help anyone feel better. And a lot of that is what I share in this channel. I started practicing it, and I just kept practicing over and over and over again. And most days I would feel terrible, but the things that I did do that were new and different that I started to integrate, which included expressing a different mindset, spiritual practices like breath work, but most importantly, certain mindset creations that I practiced and some different energetic techniques started to completely shift the way that I felt. And then amazingly, my outside life reflected how amazing I felt on the inside. And relationships started to get better, my career started to take off, and my physical body felt more healthy and actually more fit. I was really into athletics and high-performance rock climbing at that time, and I climbed at a higher grade than I ever had in my life at an older age. I mean, all of these kind of miraculous things happening. I started youthing, as we call it, like getting younger even though chronologically I was getting older. And the two things that I heard expressed way after I started to experience this profound transformation years ago and still experience every day, I heard by my teacher's teacher. His name is Sri Satya Sai Baba. He left the body. He died a few years ago, but he was in I don't even know what words to use, this incredible master of enlightenment, of light, of healing. He was beyond time and space and still is in that way. And I was reading some of his books the other day, and he said the only two things are needed, and I'm paraphrasing here, but only two things are needed for the spiritual path. And what I would say is only two things are needed for transformation. And here's what they are. They boil down to these two qualities: effort and patience. Now let's think about this. As long as we practice, not try, as long as we practice something over and over and over again and stay engaged with it, and adapt to what works and what doesn't work about our practice in any modality that we're practicing, and we have patience with it, we will attain mastery and transformation. I mean, this is amazing. It then dovetailed into this, I was contemplating this the other day, it then dovetailed into this other idea that if we do the right things for the right amount of time, success has to occur. I sometimes stumble upon these rules of life that I've heard people talk about throughout the years, and I kind of find them for myself, and they have a new quality for me. And you should do this too. I mean, this is the path of transformation, and you could take some things that I've discovered, contemplate them, practice them, and you'll probably discover them for yourself, because they, for me, are laws of life. Now, what do I mean about the right things for the right amount of time? The right things mean that you are connected to and aware of what you want to achieve, one, the outside world, and two, how we want to feel, meaning the inside world. So we are focused on those two aspects of our life: the outside world, which are situations, relationships, I think that's about it, that encompasses most things, and the inside world, our feelings, our thoughts, and we could say where our actions come from, right? So what are the right things? Well, the right things mean the right kind of people. Let's talk about relationships, the kind of people that inspire us, that draw us out into a new realm of the way that we want to be living, the quality of our relationships. So we practice being with the right people, right? And we also practice doing the right things in terms of actions. We do the actions, we think to ourselves, do our actions and our choices create what we really want? Right? Do our choices in terms of how we act, who we're connected to, how we are in our job, forget about changing the job or the career or the role. How are we in the role, and how can we recreate it in such a way that it experience it in a new way, right? So do our actions reflect how we want to feel, regardless of what the role is? For example, let's say I'm in a job or role that I really don't like. Maybe I'm in the role of a mother or father. Maybe I'm in a role of a job, just any job, and I don't like my job. Here's a key to changing. I'm going to take a quick little tangent here and then come back. A key to transforming any job that you have is transforming your relationship to it. Meaning, use the job that you're having to create a better sense of yourself, a better experience, a better self, you could say. Meaning, if you don't like the people there, you become better and see what happens. I've told this story a number of times. One time I had a job and I couldn't stand this person that I was working with. I was very frustrated by them, and they had some objectively challenging personality characteristics, right? The long story short is I decided to transform myself, meaning I got patient with them. I tolerated them, not tolerated. I appreciated them, and I created a space for them just to be them. And then I had like a minor conversation with them about it. They transformed because I did. And this is one of the defining moments around the inside out kind of living that I talk about a lot, is if we transform ourselves, our world is always a reflection of what's happening inside of ourselves. So all this to say is that if we start to take the right kind of actions, and right meaning the actions that serve us the most and have us become the kind of person that we want to be and have us and create the life that we want to have for ourselves, if we make those the kind of actions that help us create that, then our outside world will mirror the transformation that we have from the inside. And one aspect of this is all about the right mindset. Meaning we go beyond the compelling reason to be a certain way that's limiting. I'll give another little quick story here. I was in an airport up in Newark, New Jersey the other day. I got there a little bit later than I wanted to, and there was an objectively very frustrating thing happening with luggage and waiting in line and going over to this other machine and getting a tag and then waiting in line and talking to somebody. Then they say you have to go back to this machine. And this one couple that was up there with this baby completely lost it. I mean, they were furious, screaming and yelling at the attendants. You know, some of us passengers, they started to like look at each other and were like, whoa, this is wild. And I was kind of thinking to myself, I was like, wow, okay, I'm not going to kind of react to what they're doing. And I actually did my best not to judge them. I was just like, oh my gosh, these people are in a ton of suffering. The gentleman actually brought the baby up to the teller the baby was crying in a stroller. I think because the parents were screaming literally at these attendants, these employees of United. And the guy said, look what you did to the baby. Are you happy? And I was just like, oh my God, these people are in so much suffering. This is brutal. So then I went up there and I experienced the kind of frustrating situation that they did. And I was aware for myself around how in our lives, sometimes if we want to, let's just say, create the life that's extraordinary, both externally and internally, we have to go beyond the compelling reason of being an unhelpful way. Meaning, it would have been easy for me to be like, are you kidding me? This is an absurd system that you have here. You mean I have to go back to this machine, get a tag, and then wait another 15 minutes here in this line? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I could have gone there. It would have been very easy. I mean, I felt the frustration welling up in me. And of course, the attendant was probably just like, suffering in some way because they'd just been screamed at by somebody. I doubt the attendants had control over this whole process. Maybe they were short-staffed. Who knows? But the teaching here that I learned for myself is that if we want the life we want to have, if we get the life we want to have, if we want to have that, and if we want to be the person that we want to be, which is someone who's happy, peaceful, joyful, inspired, all of that, we are going to have to go beyond the compelling reason to be frustrated, to be angry, to be impatient, all those different qualities that I would say are more unhelpful in the low frequency of things, that are more limiting and contracted. So all this goes back to doing the right things for the right amount of time. That's one of those defining moments. And I wasn't like proud of myself. I was like, okay, I did pretty well here. What was fascinating, by the way, again, I'll take this story to its conclusion and then loop back. Here's things. Hopefully this is entertaining for you. I did what they told me to do, even though it was objectively frustrating. And I was also behind in time, and I didn't make enough time for myself, and I was feeling anxious, like I was going to miss my flight. I didn't. But I did what they told me to do. I said, okay, so I have to go back to the machine, get a tag, and then come back to you? And he was like, yes. And you could tell he was just bracing for me to scream at him, just like the other couple had. I went back to the machine and did my thing. Even though I had a compelling reason to feel frustrated and contracted like everybody else was who had gone before me, and everyone was watching me about what was happening, I could feel like everybody else was like, what is this system? It's insane. And everyone else was tired. It was a very busy day. Anyway, I went back, got the tag. There was an attendant there. I was extra kind to her. And I was like, okay, so I get this tag and I have to go wait in line again? She's like, yes. And I was like, is there any way that and I was trying to be like vulnerable, kind, not manipulative, but just trying to soften, because I could see they were struggling too. And I also wanted to get my way selfishly, right? And so she's like, I don't think so. And I was like, all right, fine. Okay. So I go back up there. I kind of wait at the front of the line and I kind of wave to the guy and I'm like, hey, is there any way I can just drop these off to you? And the guy like rolled his eyes. He was like, okay. And I walk up and I was like, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And then I turned to the rest of the line. I'm like, thank you. Sorry. And it was like actually a pretty good interaction. I could tell some people were kind of frustrated by me having cut in line, but I was very quick. So anyway, all this to say is that our results mimic our internal world. Now, in that moment, I had consciously practiced creating. I don't think I was perfect, obviously, because I was frustrated. I had practiced creating a state inside of myself that reflected a positive outcome on the outside. So we need to go beyond that compelling reason for the right amount of time, right? And I can assure you, with effort, the right kind of effort, and the right kind of patience, just patience, the right things for the right amount of time, you can have anything in your life. You got this. Thank you.